Hello and welcome back to Dial H for Heroclix. I'm your sexy ranch hand co-host, Kalder and Simeon. This week, we're going to be answering some listener questions and talking about some Fantastic Four Future Foundation sculpts and news that we saw this week. This is episode 347. Howdy, howdy. Let's get rowdy.
My stuff.
Dial H for Heroclix is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, including all the latest Heroclix singles and steel products. Make sure you check them out at CoolStuffInc.com. Joining me, as always, in the studio is the Heroclix heavyweight champion, Simeon Bruce. What's going on, Simeon?
Oh, yeah. And speaking of cool stuff, I busted $400 worth of cap in their behind earlier this day. Felt kind of good, but kind of bad at the same time because it was all pre-order stuff. So now I play the waiting game.
And with the way, Alliance and WizKids have been, that could be a long time.
Yeah, I'll see you next year. Cool stuff with my order. That is something that we've never mentioned, I guess, on air, and we probably should a little bit, I guess, is I once pre-ordered a Saruman, or no, not pre-order. I once ordered a Saruman from the Lord of the Rings set, single figure. They had it in stock, and I was like, sure. There's a local kid that really wanted it, and I was like, yeah, I'll grab it for him. And I can't remember what set I pre-ordered with it, but I pre-ordered a set with it. And yeah, when you bundle stuff like that, if you're trying to reach like that $100 mark for free shipping, they won't ship the whole thing, or they won't ship any like piece of it until the entire order is ready to go. So I ended up waiting like 3 months for that, and our shop was closed down.
Yeah.
So I'm just sitting on a Lord of the Rings Saruman figure, and hopefully when our shops reopen, he comes back in, and I can actually give it to him. Otherwise, I'll just forever have this single Lord of the Rings figure.
That is nice. See, now I've had the WWE figures on pre-order for I don't even know how long, and I probably bought a few extra figures to like get my order up to 100. From just like random, like 30 cent, whatever figures. And so now every time I go and make an order, I've got to check, every time I try to fill it out, be like, oh no, I already have what I accidentally bought, an extra version of, what's his face? Weaponer of Cord. I'm like, I guess I've got 2 of these now. One's on its way and got one here. So like, that's neat. But yeah, no, if you have pre-order items in your order, the whole order does not ship until like that pre-order ships, which is kind of like true, I think, for most like action figure companies, stuff like that. But yeah, no, it is something to keep in mind.
And it is cool. Cool Stuff will let you take your like stuff that's in your cart and put it to your like later section, so you can take some of like the figures that are currently in your cart and put them to like maybe later. So if you want to tally up all of your pre-orders just to see what it'll be, but you're not going to actually buy them till like release, you can do that, and then you can just put them in like the save section so they're ready to go back in the cart, but they won't be there in checkout. Because I had all the WWE figures in that like limbo space for months and months and months and months. I think like 2 sets at least, maybe 3 sets went by as the WWE figures were just like watching and crying. And I was like, it's what you get, Xavier Woods. It's what you get.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Wow. Calling some up, down Xavier Woods heat that we definitely cannot absolutely like. If you were to throw any heat our way, we could not return that at all whatsoever.
No,
glad we called him out.
He would break my jaw and sternum with the same punch. It would just
dude.
A straight
absolutely.
Right. And like my jaw would shatter, and then my heart would be pumping so bad it would just break my sternum at the same time.
Although I've got to say, I don't know if he could hit you quite that hard. I have to say, if I had to choose someone out of all the New Day to fight, it probably would be Xavier Woods. Kofi kind of scares me. He's like really freaking fast. Like he's just all over the place, high intensity. And then Big E is like Big E. Like I wouldn't want to be in the same room as him if like violence was going to happen, because
I try not to pick fights with guys that can squat like 4 times my weight.
Right.
Xavier's probably like 2 to 3 times my weight, so like maybe there's a chance. And then Kofi's just way too fast, and he's got like, kind of like that capoeira style. So I'd catch like a left heel to like the temple before I even noticed it.
Let's talk about what made us happy this week, Simeon. Was it just spending money for you? Was that the big what made you happy?
No, spending money truly does not make me happy. They say money can't buy you happiness, and I've yet to find out because I don't have any. But what did make me
you know what?
happy
Geez, that was just so sad. I was going to chime in with like, but it can buy you a boat. It can buy you a truck to pull it. It can buy you a honeymoon down and some silver bullets. Anyways.
I mean, the main thing is
destroy country music in your eardrums.
Money
but Simeon,
buy you security, and that'd just be nice for a lot of people. But no, what did make me happy this week is I started on my second of 2 puzzles. So I finished my Garbage Pail Kids puzzle. It is missing a total of 3 pieces. It is framed, hanging on my wall as we speak. I started my second one. It's some sort of kind of like D&D art. I think it appears in a lot of game shops, whatever this puzzle is. So if you've been in a game shop, you might have seen it in the puzzles like area. But it's like a dude casting a spell. It's a weird monkey just hanging out in the background. It's a lady with like a sword. It's pretty cool. A lot of like, it's really pastel-y kind of colors, which is making it extremely hard. I actually found the Garbage Pail Kids with their like weird shaped puzzle pieces to be way easier than this one, because these are all like standard. They're all like very similar standard pieces. So it's not like, clearly this piece goes with this one because the shapes.
Yeah.
But the pastel-y colors are really throwing me off, so it might be harder. But I started that this weekend. And then, we're due for like 12 inches of snow tomorrow, so can't wait for that.
You are, anyways.
Yeah.
Hope that doesn't affect me up here. That'd be... Well, actually, no, it'd be super easy. Barely an inconvenience for me, I suppose. Not really. Not really doing anything tomorrow. So, actually, that's not so bad.
Yeah, my boss texted me and said, if you want to take the day off, you can, but we're expecting you to show up. Like, so basically saying it's going to be like a PTO day if you decide to stay home. And since I live 3 minutes from my shop, there's 0 chance that I'm not going in unless it's like work's completely called off. So I have a big day of shoveling snow for like 2 hours and then 8 hours of folding old vinyls and nasty, gross shop work. So that didn't make me happy.
You know what? That honestly sounds, because I'm not scared of heights, but the other things you do sound terrifying. I'd probably rather shovel snow, honestly. But all right, very cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
I'd rather do anything than the one time, when that derecho is what they call it, a derecho.
I don't know exactly what you mean. I guess
it's that weird windstorm that's like hasn't been seen in like 100 years. They have like a name for it. It tore through Iowa, destroyed like just a ton of property. Winds reached like hundreds of miles an hour.
Jeez, yikes!
A tiny little bit of that, like a tiny sliver, hit Omaha for like an hour. And I was up on a structure when it first started doing that. So I was like 60, 70 feet up, and the whole structure started like swaying really bad, and I had to like lean into the wind just to walk. I was like, should I just like lay down and just like wait it out? Or should I like have my bucket truck? Because the bucket truck is like extended 60 feet out and it's swaying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know if I want to get in that. That looks like the worst situation out of the two, when your only escape is like
that all just sort of sounds awful. Yeah, no, I don't like that at all. All right, now that made me wildly uncomfortable. All right, let's talk about what made me happy, huh, listener? Listener's like, let's move on from this. Jeez. I'm gonna steal a little bit of Simeon's thing here. I also built a puzzle this week. My family bought like this weird Lego head puzzle, very difficult to put in because it's a lot of yellow.
I imagine.
And then some of the Lego heads are pretty basic. Like it uses some pretty cool looking ones where you're like, oh yeah, that's like a really specific one that like only one dude has. And then you're like, it's like the normal two black dots smile face. Why are there three of him in this puzzle? That makes this very hard. So yeah, that was a fun puzzle to build. And just sort of hung out at home. Watched the 1950s musical Annie Get Your Gun. Pretty sick musical about Annie Oakley, Frank Butler, and Buffalo Bill. So that was just actually really, really, really good musical. I was highly impressed. It's very funny, especially like an old 1950s movie. It was very fun to watch.
It's weird about Buffalo Bill, Cody. It's really weird how many states like tried to lay claim to his fame, because he's like born in one, spent most of his time in one, and then was like buried in another. But yeah, it's like Wyoming, Nebraska, and Colorado all have museums or like weird Buffalo Bill Cody kind of things. I don't know.
Sure, that makes sense. Interesting. Yeah, people like that. They're always like, oh, we have local legend XYZ, whoever here. Like pretty much all throughout the, we call it the, what would it be? The Louisiana Purchase. This area, but like any place like where Lewis and Clark went through, like at all, is going to have some trails. It's going to have maybe a little museum or something. Yeah, we get it. They were all over this area.
Yeah,
Let's not try to act like we're special or anything.
Right across the river in Iowa, there's a Lewis and Clark landing, and it's just like a little walk around park thing, and it's like, yep. They were in this river.
They stopped here on their trip. And I'm like, yeah, they were on a trip for like months. They kind of had to stop, every day.
They also weren't particularly good at it at the beginning. So it took them a while to find somebody that could actually like show them like, hey, going in circles is bad. So, yeah, I would have done better is what I'm saying.
Nope, definitely wouldn't have. Not at the time. Not with the stuff. Not with the technology they had at their disposal, I would say.
Google Maps was a thing back then.
Sure it was, Simeon. Anyways, with that 12 minutes and 32 seconds of banner, let's go ahead and get on into, Heroclix in this Heroclix podcast. Does that sound good, Simeon? Is that okay with you?
Yes. I will accept that.
Do you want to tell me about any vape tricks and or Witcher things before we move on to the HeroClix part of the show?
I will say I just beat the Hearts of Stone DLC for The Witcher 3.
Oh, there it is.
Gonna move on to Blood and Wine pretty soon. That's an interesting adventure in wine country it's gonna be some vampires, some politicians stuff.
All right. Well, difference between vampires and politicians, not a big one. Both blood-sucking creatures. Anyways, so let's go ahead and move on. I just gave Simeon about 30 seconds there for me to say something clever. Let's talk about some HeroClix news. Almost got into a rabbit hole there. Glad we got out of there as quickly as we could. Future Foundation, ladies and gentlemen, the next HeroClix set coming up. I'm going to start off with the more soft news, and that is seeing the sculpts for the Fantastic Four, Future Foundation Fast Forces, the FFFF, if you will. I think that's pretty funny, honestly. Just find that hilarious. It's going to be Johnny Reed, Sue, and Thing, and then Dr. Doom and Spider-Man. Very cool. What we can tell from the cards, all the Fantastic Four / Future Foundation members all have regen some point in their dial, their last click. Very cool. Some of them have traits, some of them don't. Thing is the only character in the Fast Forces with Indomitable based on the card. I think is very interesting, very funny. They all have traits. Some have multiple traits. But the cards, the pictures are so blurry. It's very difficult to tell what's going on here.
Doom's the only one. So Doom has both Fantastic Four and Doom Team ability, which I think is why he doesn't have the secondary trait giving him some cool power. But yeah, he's also, I guess we have no idea what the point cost is, or the dial information. So we really have no idea beyond just like what the fronts of the cards kind of look like. We can see some of the powers, but this Doom looks very underpowered compared to the last starter set Doom that we got.
Yeah. That's for sure. That's for sure. But I think the more interesting like point of this Fast Forces is absolutely nothing. I just actually want to talk about the Dyson token pack. Before we get to the back of the tokens, which has all the pogs, as we're more accustomed to believe nowadays, I just want to applaud WizKids for the dice. The dice look really cool. Instead of like the traditional pips, it's got the weird hexagonal Future Foundation things, and it's got a little hexagon for each number. And I just like, that's just really unique. Haven't seen that with any token packs, I don't think, with with the pips being special. It's pretty cool.
Well, do you think that's the 6 or do you think that's the 3?
Why wouldn't that be the 3? What do you mean?
I would really hope it's not the 3, but that's like the Future Foundation like triplicate symbol, because at that point there was only 3 of the Fantastic Four, so they had like the 3 little things. I'm just really hoping it's the 3 and that it's not the 6, so you don't have like 3 pips on like the 3 side and then 3 pips on the 6 side.
So what I was thinking is I thought maybe that's not the logo for the dice because I can't really see the sides. I was sort of hoping that that's like, on every single side. But if that's their logo, because I didn't know their logo was just like 3 hexagons, then I'm less excited for these dice, actually. Not excited at all if that's what it is. I thought maybe on each side it would have a hexagon for each thing instead of like pips, I
thought they were tapping into some Stan Strakowski.
Yeah, some actual like creativity for their dice for once. But if that's not the case, I don't care about these dice at all. Wow.
How dare you assume... I have no idea. It could be the case. It would be amazing if it was. But I have no idea.
I was giving them maybe a little too much credit, it would seem. All right. But these tokens, check them out. We have Latverian Peasants for 2 of the tokens. So that was for the Latverian Village map, which means there's probably not going to be a lot of bystanders in this set if they're making bystanders from the last set into it. Then we have the Turg. It's the little moloid head on a plate thing. It's got flight, special speed power, tiny size, and 17 toughness. 1 damage, 9 attack, and 9 speed. Pretty cool. And then the rest of them are the apes, the apes that the Santa Claus guy has, the red ghost. So top one, Pietor, is a charge, super strength, 16 defense, invulnerability, 3 damage with nothing, 10, 10, 16, 3, no special combat symbols, no range. Then Mikolo has a 8 with Force Blast, 11 attack with TK, 17 toughness, 2 damage with nothing with 6 range, pretty solid. And then Igor, kind of a weird tie-up one, but also not a good tie-up one, sadly. Has 4 range, 9 speed leap climb, 9 attack with nothing, 18 defense with super senses, 2 damage with shape change. But what makes them a bad tie-up piece is they have a tiny size. Yeah. Very inconvenient.
And plasticity. So at least if they had a tiny size with plasticity, it would give you like a -1 to breakaway. But instead it gives you a +1 because they don't have it.
Yeah. Very strange. Very strange. Yeah,
the little
tokens.
Decapitated moloid guy, I'm guessing his special speed power involves something to do with not being able to carry, which will make him almost useless, in my opinion. It'll be dependent on what it does, he is tiny already, so it's not like he's going to carry a whole lot either way.
And then moving on, we get to see a plethora of sculpts. I don't know when they started doing this thing where they just sort of like throw out a whole bunch of sculpts and then just sort of take a picture. Because like they never use necessarily the best sculpts in the set. And then based on the other times we've seen it, they don't even use all the sub themes sometimes. So they just sort of like take one big picture of like a couple of figures, like 10, 15 figures from the set. And then they have a bunch of smaller close-up pictures. Which sucks about the close-up pictures is some of the figures that I actually care about are cut off in the close-up pictures. And so I got to zoom in my normal computer here. But yeah. So let's sort of do small picture to small picture here. So we're sort of a little left to right. We got Sue, I think. I don't know. In these big pictures, they sort of cut off the last 2 people. So we have Sue. We have a dude that's not Batman, but sort of looks like Batman. Simeon. Any clue who he is? Is he like the Reaper guy? What's his face? Death Scythe Vision Villain Man? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
That almost looks like
it is in like the big picture.
It's really hard to tell because It
I don't
could
know.
be.
Nighthawk doesn't wear that dark. I don't think. It's all like
That's
blue
true,
and
yeah.
red.
And he wouldn't make sense for a
I
Fantastic
guess it's
Four
the other
set
one.
anyhow. Could be a lot of things, to be honest. It's really hard to tell
Yeah.
with that zoomed out picture that we have.
But now we can move on to the Zoom ones. We have a Moloid girl. We have the Mad Thinker, Awesome Andy, as seen again. We have a version of She Thing. This is the one where it's like an actual person inside of like a robot suit. She's a pink haired lady. We can see Leech. We get to see a Mr. Fantastic, but it's a scroll, big obvious scroll head. We get to see Vil or Val or I don't know, something, another little weird kid. Franklin, a little weird kid, and Simeon. You wanna tell me who that last little weird kid is?
Leech. So
Little bean? No. The one with the bean head. No, not Leech. We know Leech.
Okay. You're talking about
The
good
one that
old
sort of dumped it there.
Adolf Impossible. Is who you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, it would seem.
From the Impossible family line, good old Adolf Impossible. Yeah, he's their Impossible Man once created himself a wife and then had a son and named him Adolf Impossible. And yeah, for some reason he was in the Future Foundation for a short period of time. I don't think he is anymore, but while he was in the Future Foundation, they all have like a number on their chest. Doesn't really apply to anything. It's like whatever number higher than 4 they are. And he used to wear the infinity symbol. So that's
okay.
What his powers could be.
What a quirky little dude.
Yeah, something to do with Impossible Man kind of powers, because he's basically just an extension of Impossible Man with a very strange name.
Neat.
Yeah.
Weird they went with Adolf of all things, but yeah.
V and Wu are brother and sister to the Uhari throne. I think they're Atlanteans. That's the little blue-headed kids. Most of the green-headed kids are Moloids. There's an Impossible Man kid and Leech. Of course, it's just a mutant.
They're yellow-headed kids, really.
Well, true.
But
Yeah.
All right. You want to tell me about this purple guy? This guy is just sort of flinging purple boogers around. I don't really know what's going on here. I'm not going to lie.
That's good old...
Kind of don't know who he is.
Impossible Man. No, he's Molecule Man.
Oh, weird.
Slightly less impossible than Impossible Man.
A very golden age version of Molecule Man.
Yeah. He's got that classic green and
not golden age, that's whatever age came out.
Yeah, silverish, very like 70s kind of like costuming with like...
Whenever his, debut was, I guess. So, this is good. We needed a Molecule Man for a while.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see if they do anything with him that counteracts the title character Reed Richards. I imagine they will, so you can't just start this
How do you mean?
Because the way title character Reed Richards works is with his -1 ability. So his minus...
Okay.
What is it? Let me get this correct here. So his +1 ability, sorry. His +1 is Outwit, Perplex, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't really matter. His +0 ability is to generate a bystander by the name of Molecule Man. And then his -1 is free if Reed Richards, Fixer of the Universe, is adjacent to Molecule Man. Roll a d6, deal that much unavoidable damage to the lowest point character on your opponent's force. You choose if there's a tie. So, great way to get rid of Colossal Retaliators without leaving your own starting area. That's why I think this guy probably will have some sort of caveat, or maybe, I don't know, he'll have some way to get around this. Otherwise, basically, your Reed Richards could +1 in your starting area, turn 2 -1, and just delete a low point character off your opponent's force.
Oof. Yeah, because normally you have to spit out the Molecule Man Pog, and he can only live if he's in a starting area. And you have to be all the way in your opponent's starting area to even make him, right?
Something to make him, you have to be in your opponent's starting area. That's why.
So this takes a lot of risk away from that. Wow. Nice.
Yeah. Nice. Depending on his point value, it might. I mean, it could very well just be like they allow it. There's also Bystander Generation, so this combo does nothing if your opponent's playing like a Mary Jane and they spit out a paparazzi, and then it's like, go ahead, kill one of my paparazzis. I do not care. Or Krakoan Revival, like.
Yeah, I suppose so. That is kind of interesting. See, that sort of could have been like an oversight, but maybe they themselves was because like, not really. It's really not that bad. So we're just going to sort of leave it, because it could be bad. But yeah, like you said, with bystanders and everything, and he's not a title character because he has a silver ring. They don't really need those, because it's already sort of apparent in their rules. So like, yeah, that is interesting. Well, that's cool. Next slide of figures here. We get to see some cool stuff, actually. We get to see a Doctor Doom on the timetable, or whatever that's supposed to be. We get to see the timetable object, and we can tell based on this Doctor Doom and the Doctor Doom thing, they have these lighter green kind of whatever bases, Doomy and color. They're chases. Yeah, they're Doomy colors, and they're chases. So the platform, it's just called Time Platform. There we go. So the Time Platform is going to be a chase object for this chase Doctor Doom. We also see now, I'm more excited for this than a lot of other people. We see a Human Torch. We see the person with the dude in the head. We see a Spider-Man. Who cares? Doom chases. Awesome. The colors coming back, I really, really love. We've talked about this before. They feel like chases. They sort of feel weird and out of place in like a game for some reason. Like it's like, red base, but they stand out as chases. I like that. I like that color coming back. I want that color to be back. Simeon, are you happy about these chase bases hopefully coming back, being a more consistent thing throughout the game?
Yeah, absolutely. I really missed it especially when the chase when the chase theme is like a true theme. Like ADW didn't really seem like a true theme. People were like, is it like the most powerful versions of like these guys? Is it this? Is it that? But like Avengers Infinity was like a definitive chase theme. There you had Thor, like Odinson, god of whatever. I don't remember. You had Old King Thor, I guess it was. You had Hulk from the end. You had Iron Man in like this big powerful Iron Man armor. You had Hawkeye, giant man for some reason. Goliath, I guess. You had Asgardian Black Widow. You had like just really powerful versions of the Avengers, with the exception of Hawkeye, which was kind of like a goof 'em up character. But it was cool to have those like translucent red bases. It was cool, and AI brought them back with like the speckly kind of clear black bases.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
That was cool.
Like if you were ever gonna field a full team of chases, it's just really cool. It also makes it more interesting when you're like shelving these pieces, like way down the road or whatever, when you're no longer using them, and you
just add some nice color.
Oh yeah, the Phoenix 5 is still one of my favorite chase sets because one, they've got all the translucent effect, but then also their bases are all like just really cool to like look at when they're sitting there. You don't have to like pry them off their base to have like a cool looking figure. You've got this cool looking base effect. That being said, this is one of like the more boring and bland kind of colors they could have picked, but it does match Doom's like colors, so I can't complain. It's just would have been cool to get like more, not necessarily translucent effect, but just some sort of like flavor to it, I guess. Would have been my only gripe for it.
I guess I'm just kind of cool with the color dials on chases coming back. So moving on, we get to see the I believe that is Alchemist's Fire or something. I don't know. We get to see some potions for Diablo. Some of Diablo's potions,
Oh yeah.
The potion for Diablo's potion. And then this is probably what I'm most excited about in this entire like picture. Yeah, no, good reference, right? Yeah, but the emotional modifier for Psycho Man is coming back. We haven't gotten one since Secret Invasion. Now I don't know Psycho Man from like any normal storyline. I know him from the the Fearful Four, Howard the Duck Fear Itself storyline, where he makes his version of the Fantastic Four, the Fearful Four, with him, Nighthawk, She-Hulk, and Frankenstein's monster. They fight Psycho Man, and also they fight weird versions of the Spider-Man, Ghost Rider, Wolverine Hulk, Fantastic Four in that storyline. They also fight Man Thing because Man Thing's going crazy. But like, I'm so excited to get Psycho Man in this, just as a character because it's been so long, but also because hopefully that means those characters are gonna be in the storyline. Like, I really, really hope those characters in the storyline so bad. But I'm not gonna hold my breath. I want them to be in the set. I really want them to be in the set, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. Perfect set. You missed them in the last one. This is the perfect set to get that version of the Fearful Four. They'll make me so happy. Next picture, we have Puppet Master. We get to see his full sculpt now. He's got his puppets. This is cool. We get to see Ant-Man. Yeah, he's got some good-looking eyebrows. We see an Ant-Man for whatever reason. He's got a big 4 on his chest.
So, yeah, he was part of the Fantastic Four when it was the pink-haired girl in, like, the Thing suit. She-Hulk and the other guy. I can't remember the third one. But, yeah, those 3 or 4. When they took over for the Fantastic Four for a tiny spell. That was the Scott Lang dude.
Good stuff. We get to see Utah the Watcher. Now, we haven't seen Utah Uetu, however you say it. We haven't seen him since Galactic Guardians as a 2x2 figure. And now we get to see him as a standard character. He's giant size. He's got 12 range. No special combat symbols besides that. Probably has power cosmic. He's a super rare. I don't think he has a number by his base. The only reason I want him to be or have a prime version is if we can get an Earth X version of Uatu. That would be really awesome. I would really, really, really enjoy that. We did get some Earth X figures in the last Fantastic Four set. So if they want to keep throwing me some nickel and dime Earth X figures, I'm totally okay with it. Just to fill out that storyline. So I don't think this dude's going to be a prime. Might just totally be another version. There's a bunch of weird versions of the Watcher that are like different Watchers. There's like the one that's like a big Deadpool fan, which is kind of just sad. There's like some other versions of like the Watcher. So I would really love an Earth X version of the Watcher because he's like a big antagonist, like really in that story. We also get to see the Thing. We get to see the Nut Kicker, Bentley, something or other, little Fantastic Four kid. We get to see the full Red Ghost sculpt. And there's sort of not much else. Sort of weird. They sort of shuffled around stuff in the background of that picture. Like they sort of put Doctor Doom.
Yeah, it doesn't really match up how it was weird in like the big image. Yeah. It's weird.
The big one, yeah.
I will
but
say,
yeah, so that's all the sculpts.
In the previous image, it looks like a rare Human Torch. That particular version of the Human Torch is like the return of the Human Torch. So his arm is like covered in weird like tendrily stuff. That is the Human Torch that has the cosmic control rod. So whether that'll be a returning object, I'm not sure. But he returns from like the negative zone with Annihilus on a leash. So we already got an Annihilus in the last set. It'll be interesting to see if we have another one in this one. But it's I'm not going to say like crazy more powerful Human Torch. But it is like a big moment in comics, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with that guy, especially for a rare. And then, return of chase objects. So that's...
I don't think about that, but yeah, I guess they are chase objects, huh? Yeah.
One of them is, for sure.
Not terrible. Yeah. Not terrible, to be honest with you. Yeah. I think one or two chase objects is fine. Shouldn't be a chase theme, though. That'd be ridiculous.
I'm fine with chase objects. I was fine with like the Mighty Thor not like being able to get them because they were high priced or whatever. And then people that can get them can sell them for.
I didn't hate it.
But it's just
I mean, you get the right chase object, make some bank, man. It's good stuff.
Yeah, we also get to see the back of the boosters.
Sometimes the object, sometimes the character, I guess. Oh yeah, we do get to see the booster packaging, but it's not really anything new, so I didn't really care to share it, to be honest with you.
Well, like the back Twitter, is like primal.
Oh, that's right. The back is something new.
So that's what they normally reserve for like a chase or some of the chases, and so they've got a primal-ish Doom in like a loincloth and a spear. with like a headband, and then in the background they've got different variations of Doom throughout the years. There's one with like a Viking helmet. So it'll be interesting to see which Dooms they actually give us. I don't remember what Doom came with, what storyline it was. Oh, it's impossible for me to remember now, but there was basically this like threat that was like on the cosmic level, and when Doom first
a cosmic level threat.
Yeah.
That never happens.
Yeah, when Doom first like faced off against him, he like tossed Doom like back into like the very beginnings of Earth or whatever. And so like Doom survived in like the very beginnings of Earth, and survived so long off of his own magic and like the like Earth and like whatever, that he became like a disciple to this guy, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of him, but he was like pretty important for a little bit in comics. But Doom, like, he tosses Doom back in time. Doom slowly works his way up through like this guy's graces without him knowing that it's Doom. He like changes his name and stuff and becomes like a disciple to this guy's cult. And then in like the here and now, like after Doom got tossed back in time, like the Fantastic Four is facing off against this guy, and the guy's disciple like just like reveals himself. He's like, aha, it's me, Doom, the whole time. I survived like 12 million years to have my revenge. It's pretty fun though. Hopefully we get that version.
Weird, but I kind of like that. I kind of dig that. That's funny. Yeah. All right, sweet. Well, I think that sort of wraps up news. I'm gonna end us off on this really weird thing. If you guys pay attention to the WizKids YouTube channel, like I try to do, because got to get those screenshots in as early as you can, just because that's just sort of the way Heroclix is. They had a live stream this last week, which was it was very honest with its title. It's games we think Heroclix players would like, or something like that. So they did a live stream a week before this, and one of the first comments was like, there was some funny back and forth actually. One of the first comments was like, hey, any Heroclix news? And like the girl on the live stream was like, nope, I'm just doing board games. That's sort of all they pay me to do here at WizKids. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. And so yeah. And then this one was all about games Heroclix players would like. And really it's just, hey, we said Heroclix in the title. Now you're gonna watch the live stream hoping for some Heroclix.
Yeah.
But really, we're just going to talk about board games we also want you to buy. And they're not related to Heroclix like at all. Like not in the slightest, except for one of them. But you already knew about that one. You decided it sucked. So they talked about some weird... they talked about a couple of card games. I don't like playing deck building games. She said something like, oh, it's just like building your Heroclix team or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I do like building Heroclix teams. But this is different. Deck building games suck. So like I wasn't sold on that one. The other one was some like weird fighting game that was also a card game, and I'm like, yeah, but card games suck. And then she like went on to do show like a few years ago or like a year or two ago. There was, gosh, I can't remember what it's called. It's like Strike Teams or something, and it was just a bunch of resculpted Civil War and Nick Fury Agents of Shield like sculpts. And it was sort of like a Avengers versus Hydra type deal, Shield versus Hydra. And it's on Heroclix bases. They have Switch Clicks. Or maybe they don't have Switch Clicks. I don't even know. But they don't work for the Heroclix game. It's sort of like the Justice League strategy game, where it's like, oh, it's also a game. But then they're also Heroclix. So that's cool. But these weren't also Heroclix. So it's like, so there's no point in me getting this game. Tried to sell us on that. And we're like, yeah, cool. But we're Heroclix fans. So we really only care about Heroclix. And I even own one of the other WizKids games, which is like fine. Their games aren't really knocking it out of the park, crazy cool games that you'll see in a normal game group. Like, oh, it's time to go play some Smash City. Big fan of Smash City from WizKids. So it was just a live stream trying to sell it to Heroclix players specifically. I sort of feel bad for the lady in charge of that. Just sort of like she probably just wants to talk about board games.
I would have bought Smash City, but the non-booster pack or whatever, the non add-on price, like the standard game price for Smash City was like $80, and I was like, you have to be crazy to think I'm gonna
throw a dice, cardboard
big dice at cardboard cutouts for $80. Yeah, I'm just not I'm not down to pay that much.
I don't know. It seems pretty tempting.
One thing I will say I really like from WizKids, just to to give them a little credit, to say like some cool stuff. Their warlock tiles, or I think that's what they call them, the warlock tiles, where you can build your own like maps and dungeons. Those are really cool. It's sad that they're so expensive. I understand why they're so expensive, but I really wish I could build like a full Heroclix map for, I don't know, like $60. Sadly, it's closer to like 120 to make like a Heroclix sized map. And it'd be closer to like 240 if I wanted to make it like a really cool map. But the Warlock tiles are a really cool thing. They've got like their own little doors and stuff in like rooms, so you can build your own maps. But yeah, it's something that I'm only gonna do like every now and then, because man, it's quite expensive to just buy every new Warlock tile set that comes out.
That would kind of be a lot, but they are really cool looking. I will agree with you there. And obviously they're meant for D&D, so like there's sort of a more D&D price point on them, less so a HeroClix. Like you kind of want to build like a HeroScape map type of deal with these things, and that would just be kind of super expensive. But yeah, no, those are pretty cool. You know, sort of speaking in that same realm, not really HeroClix related, guys. Sorry, it's sort of about the company, but we can probably make it HeroClix related. They got the rights to Critical Role this week. Now, I'm not a fan of Critical Role, and I don't really get it, but I'm glad other people enjoy it. I'm glad they're happy enjoying it. I personally am a big fan of the McElroy family. I think they're way more interesting to listen to, and it's not normal D&D, and I just can't stand the fantasy world of all the fantasy BS that D&D is. Just really kind of hate it. Just really don't care for it all. Oh, you're like a magic guy, right? This is just sort of like Lord of the Rings, the board game. Oh, yeah, cool. I hate it. Thanks. But yeah, so they've got the rights to Critical Role now. They've had the rights to make D&D related stuff for a while. If there even are rights, don't know really how that works. But I know Critical Role does have rights because they're making action figures and Funko Pops and all this other jazz. So their first set of Critical Role stuff is sort of like monsters and then some side characters. It's not like the main people from Critical Role. There's like a blue lady, and there's like, there's Matt Mercer. I don't think he's actually a player. Anyways, there's like stuff like that. And I don't know anything about it because it sucks and I hate it. If you play D&D, you're a loser. Anyways, so now that I've alienated several of our listeners, what do you think, Simeon? Think we're going to get Critical Role HeroClix? What do you think is going to happen with this property?
I really wish we would. I mean, so D&D is something that WizKids already does like miniatures for. They're coming out with some skeleton dragons and like some other cool miniatures that are like pretty big, but they already make like painted ones, and they make like take home and paint kind of style ones. So that like if you go into a game shop that has HeroClix, you probably could look around and also find their unpainted D&D miniatures, and I really like them. The price point isn't like right now. The price point isn't something that I'm willing to do because I already have a ton of extra miniatures. If I was somebody starting out, maybe I'd grab a couple. Hero Forge is like another really awesome way if you're new to D&D and you want to make if you're running like a bard cleric, or you're doing like a monk build or something, where you can't just like easily, I mean, if you're doing a monk build, then like Iron Fist works for it, but if you're doing like some sort of build that is a little bit different than normal, Hero Forge is like awesome. It's like a one-time purchase. It's a little stout for a single figure, but as far as like if that's your main D&D character that you're going to be using for an entire campaign, it's worth it. I'd really like WizKids to just literally just slap dials on their D&D figures that they already make. So all they have to do, they already come on bases. They literally just have to put little tabs that click into a dial and then include the dial with the base. And if you're in it for D&D, then you just have your like figure, and it doesn't like have to click into the dial at all. It just sits there and it's pretty. And if you're into HeroClix, you can click it on the dial, and then all of a sudden you've got a figure that's like, custom painted or whatever. I like it. to be honest, like D&D is way more fun for me than Heroclix usually is. There's not really any competitive aspect to D&D. It's a cooperative, usually kind of game thing. And you just have a lot of laughs because you're just playing goofy characters or whatever you can take it seriously if you're a weirdo, but who takes D&D seriously? But yeah, I really enjoy role-playing. I really enjoy coming up with like a character that I think is different from myself and try and aspire to be that person while I'm playing them, and then not being that person when I'm not playing them. But as far as them acquiring the title, my only hope is, as for all D&D properties that they mess with, is that they just attach dials or have dials that you can attach them to, because it costs them.
That's really all we need.
It costs them literally nothing else. Like, I mean, maybe like an extra like 20 cents per figure. And then, I mean, who's going to even notice that at the checkout line? You know, you're like buying your D&D figures and your total comes out to like 120 and you're like, whoa, I thought it was going to be 118.43. And they're like, oh yeah, sorry, they started including these dials. Like, nobody's going to complain. And it's not going to cost WizKids anything.
Yeah, not really.
I think it's a good option, but that's my one.
My problem is it. Yeah, my only curiosity is whether or not it's the people behind Dungeons and Dragons that's not allowing them to make it, because it's sort of like, not really, but an opposing miniatures game, quote unquote. But I don't think that's it, because there's also Betrayal at Baldur's Gate, which is very much a D&D thing, and that's not D&D, and it's a miniatures game, not really a miniatures game, but whatever. It's a board game with minis, and you're like, well, that's a game that's not Dungeons and Dragons that people can play. That's sort of like Dungeons and Dragons. So it's like, hey, why don't you let us make this game that's not Dungeons and Dragons that people can play? That's sort of Dungeons and Dragons, you know. But I don't know. It might be a problem. Who really knows? That's WizKids. We might never get D&D HeroClix. I would honestly like them, as much as I feel like it may sound like I was ragging on them. I would absolutely love D&D HeroClix. It's great, but I've just never been in a campaign where I didn't sit down from somebody who I thought was incredibly cringy and be like, man, I'd hate to spend 8 hours with you again for multiple sessions for like multiple weeks and months. Oh boy, you're just the worst.
Yeah.
Wow.
You need a D&D, or you need a dungeon master that's equal parts like entertaining and good at improvisation, because
oh no, Dungeon Master was great. I'm talking about the players. Some of these players, I was like, wow, cool. I don't like you that much. I thought I did. I really thought I liked hanging out with you. But this is awful. This is literally torture. I hate this.
So that's me. Yeah, that's fun. Me whenever I play. I'm like, I'm
I bet.
True chaotic bard, and I'm just going to whip you for no reason. And they're like, why? And I'm just like, no reason.
Cringy.
I'm chaotic.
Can we advance
neutral.
the plot, please?
You can't understand my inner workings of my brain. That is the beauty of chaotic neutral. And then I just whip you and you're like, stop.
All right, cool.
Stop it.
Let's stop talking about whipping, huh? Let's just move on in the show. That's what I'm kind of at right now. So let's go ahead and jump into community.
There are dozens of us. Dozens!
We got a few emails here. We got some Malcolm Rush questions. We got some questions from listener Elliot. This is a big fan. He says, hello, gentlemen. Already starting off on way better of a note than I'm used to. He says, been listening for about a year now. Love the podcast and the Thursday games. I know you have a love-hate relationship with HC Realms, but I posted this a little while ago. Thought you might be interested, and maybe you've already seen it in past. Not sure, but either way, if you guys are hilarious, and thanks for always making car rides way less boring. We don't make them enjoyable, Simeon. No. We only make them less boring.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, Elliot. I'm just busting you a little bit, man. I'm just joking. So he has a thread, right? He sends us to an HC Realms thread that he made a little while back here, October 27th in 2020. And it's not that we like missed it or like we saw it and we're like, we're not going to do a Thread Dead Redemption on that or anything. It's honestly because we don't really like scan the threads in HC Realms. If it's something like just sort of pops up at the bottom of the page, we're like, oh, that's neat. Then we might, sometimes we do a little bit of scanning and searching, but normally it's not a lot of active stuff. It's sort of like this sort of stood out this week, So that's really all that it is. So we weren't like watching looked at your thread and be like, yeah, it's trash, and we just like throw it away in our internet waste bin here. No, it's just we don't really pay that much attention to it. Anyways, So let's do a little impromptu Thread Dead Redemption, shall we?
Friend, I just wanted to play.
Now, firstly, we ain't friends. Don't make no mistake on that subject. Now, secondly, he can't hardly see, let alone reason. Now, reasoning ain't never been one of my strong points neither, but seeing I do just fine.
Thread reads, it's by KCGL. No idea what that could possibly stand for. Anyways, the thread reads, playing even games. I've been playing Clix for about 20 years. Well, that's just false. Sorry, I hate to call you out like this, but that's just a lie. I mean, unless you've been playing since before the game existed, you've definitely been playing Clix for 19 years. Or around, I don't know, 18-ish years. Anyways, and though I love it, yeah, huh?
Said he's rounding up, yeah.
Yeah, it's round. I'm rounding up, sure. I just want to give the same heat to this guy, even though he's a good listener to the show, that we sort of give to every other thread person on here. I just want to be fair, equality and all that jazz. Anyways,
reputation points while you're.
That's right. Make sure you really grill him about his reputation points. The game has always seemed to have the same problem, balancing. Oh, you're telling me. We always have the most fun when we play games that are evenly matched as possible. Therefore, myself and the people I play with created this tier system to help balance out the play. Obviously, this doesn't work for every single matchup/game. However, we have found that overall it's a pretty good system. Also, I would state that this tier list is generally needs to be rearranged slightly with the introduction of each new set. But I hope this helps some people enjoy the game a little more, or at least help them to create their own system and enjoy the game even more. So he's going to go through some tiers. Each tier is just sort of full of teams. So it's S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, and D tier teams. They're all named keywords. And it's basically him saying, if you play a named theme team of this style, and I'll just assume that all of his events have to be named theme teams to make it easy. He says, if you play a named theme team that's like this keyword, that's instantly a B tier team. And this week we're only allowing D tier teams or something. And I really like this idea, so I'm going to keep reading. It says, rules when choosing a team: use of any one Kingdom Come, Power Cosmic, Quintessence, or Cosmic Energy click automatically bumps your team up one tier. So let's say you're building a Batrox Brigade theme team that's all the way down in D tier. Somehow there's a Power Cosmic figure, I guess Jakar. That'll bump it up to a C tier team. Interesting. Anyways,
I find it strange that Batrox Brigade is so low.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Nope. It's definitely D tier for sure. Who do they have that's going to do anything? I mean, Batrox's good, sure, but like
it's him.
Gwenpool, your other heavy hitter. Anyways, but he says a use of 2 bumps your team up to S tier. That's where it sort of gets a little tricky, right? It starts to get messy here, but let's just keep going. Must play each team as the highest ranking keyword that entire team shares. So let's sort of say you sort of have like an Avengers team, but they're also all like, I don't know, Marvel Knights or something. You can't say it's a Marvel Knights theme team and try to be a tricky dicky here and sort of work around. No, sir. That's a B tier team. That's an Avengers team right there. Okay. Then it says your sideline must share your selected team's keyword. So that just sort of gets rid of, you can use ID cards, sure, I guess, but you got to share the keyword. You can use trouble alerts, blah, 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 blah. They got to share the keyword. I think that's fine. And then he names off some very specific figures here. So he says use of any of the following, lists them all off, will increase your team a single tier. And use of 2 of them will instantly bump them to an S tier team. So I could read all of these. It's sort of like a lot. Most of them are just kind of competitive pieces. So like Punisher, War Machine, Nimrod, the Chase Black Widow, Chase Lex Luthor, Chase Juggernaut, the Apocalypse, Onslaught. Yeah. Stealth Sentinel, Franklin Von Doom. A lot of these. Personally, he has some Golden Age picks in there. So I don't know if this is meant to only be Modern Age and it just sort of like, oh, this stuff rotated out, but I'm just leaving it on here with like Immortal Hulk. I personally don't think the normal War Machine from Captain America should be on there. Like, yeah, he is good. Neither should like Thor, the Chase Thor from Captain America. I don't really think that deserves to be on there. Like, yeah, he is like good, but like he's not nutty. Let's calm down there.
Which Thor is that?
But everything
Thor
else
from AI, or is that? See, this
070.
This reads to me like a list. So, like if he has implemented this. Let's say he's a judge at like a local venue, and he's implemented this list at his local venue. This reads to me more of a list as things that he's come across where it just like dominated the field for their like their casual night. Like Apocalypse 059B probably hasn't hit a casual night yet, but maybe that's just something he just like threw in because it's new. Honestly, in Golden Age games, any new super rares are probably going to do a lot better than most older figures. But yeah, like it reads a lot more to me like someone that's kept an eye on competitive, because there's a lot of competitive stuff here, but also there's some things here that it's just like, this seems to break X theme team. Like Exodus isn't amazing on his own. Exodus is pretty decent on his own. He's not amazing on his own, but on this particular theme team that he can fit on, he like would bump that team up to an S tier. So I feel like it's been like cultured over some casual play kind of stuff is my takeaway.
Right. So I do like this idea. I think he's missing, if he's playing Golden Age, he's missing a ton of figures. He should go ahead, look at the Majestics ban list, add those to all of it. Stuff like that. Figures that have ban lists for sure. Then there's obviously figures like Surtur, Magog, Mangog. Not the dude from Kingdom Come. Unimind, etc. If he's playing Golden Age, that definitely need to increase a tier, like 100%. If you don't think Unimind's a problem, you got to bump him. But yeah, this is probably, like you said, figures that he'd noticed were really messing with like the the district meta of the area, I suppose, right? That makes sense.
Yeah, he doesn't have Eternals as a keyword, so it's
doesn't. But Eternals isn't the best part of the keyword. He does have Cosmic in B tier, which makes sense, right? Like no one cared about Eternals as a keyword. You would
bump up to
Cosmic. Yeah. So he labels some S tier teams. That's where he just says instantly if they have Kingdom Come, Power Cosmic, Quintessence, Cosmic Energy, multiples, all instantly S tier. Fine, I think it's fine. That all makes sense. A tier teams are just B tiers that have a single tier jump clicks. And obviously, if they have two of them, they instantly bump up to S tier. I think that is fine as well. The biggest part, so I think all of this is fine. The only thing I had a criticism for was like the certain figures that he said would jump tiers. I think he needs to add quite a few more to that. He also needs to specify based on set. For characters like Exodus and like whatever, like we know there's only like one of him, sure. But like you need to specify based on set, because if you go back far enough, now this could only be his modern age thing, but he has enough Golden Age stuff in there, which sort of makes me worry. But anyways, B tier teams. This is where it gets a little weird. I don't think so. Like there's certain ones, Latveria, Frightful 4, X-Men, Avengers, whatever. Those are all totally, if we consider it being B tier. Some of these, Fawcett City, Trinity, Codex.
Champions.
Codex. Never mind. Yeah, like
Gods.
Champions.
When was the last time we got any new gods?
I don't think. Yeah, it's been a hot minute. Were there any in Batman? I don't think so. Maybe Rebirth. I don't know who the new gods are, bro. I can't tell you.
So Orion, which is a KC figure, and then the last one was Big Barda and Darkseid from Justice League Unlimited.
Okay. So somewhat recently, but not like the new gods you think of normally.
You wouldn't be able to build like a full team. Those would already, like Darkseid would hit Quintessence. Big Barda, I think.
That's true. It's true.
She doesn't have a Quintessence or anything like that, but yeah, you'd hit like a lot of like other things if you're building with that.
I just think this is where it sort of starts to not really fall apart, but like if it's more for your area, that's fine, and other areas can change it. But the way I see it, Guardians of the Galaxy has never been a B tier team to me. I get that they can all be like outwit proof or whatever if you play them on an AI like style Guardians team, but they're so bad. The Guardians aren't that good of a keyword, C tier. This is what really gets me. I think any keyword that appears in modern age as a modern age meta 300 modern team, should actually be in B tier. You have Hellfire Club and Brotherhood of Mutants should definitely be in B tier based on like the modern meta stuff. Honestly, that's another thing. You left out Jason Wingard, Tri-Sentinel. You left out all the retail actually in your bumping up stuff. And to me, unless you have something in your local like world that's like, hey guys, don't play retail, don't be jerks, just don't, huh? I think you should definitely put that on bumping it up a tier. So in C tier, he's got some ones where I'm like, sure, that's C tier. Shield, aim, and humans. Like obviously some of these just aren't on the same level of like not as good as some of them are not as good, right? Like 7 Soldiers of Victory, not amazing. Yeah. Starjammers,
well,
politician keyword.
He's got Atlantis listed as C tier.
Ooh.
And Atlantis being one of the few named keywords that is cross universe compatible. Going into Golden Age, like Atlantis is like one of like the most powerful, at least in the casual sense, keywords. I mean, of course, like Golden Age competitive, like super meta stuff is completely different, but a Atlantis team that can plant you on a fully flooded map and then have like bonuses to dolphin and bonuses to like water and damage you from like, anywhere kind of things. There's a lot of stuff that the Atlantis theme team can do that is pretty crazy. And really we've only gotten boost to it through Namor as of late, but like even then those small boosts that like Namor brings are pretty decent. I'd almost bump that up to like B tier as far as, I mean, if you're going to put Minions of Doom in B tier, I feel like Atlantis could compete with that.
All right. And then let's sort of go on to, by the way, he put, I can't remember the dude's name on HC Realms, Wakanda fan or something. He put Wakanda, the best keyword in C tier. He's going to be upset about that, I'm sure. You know what I mean, though, Simeon. Yeah. D tier. Now, D tier is where it gets the most offensive to me. Alpha Flight, yeah, absolutely, sure.
Whoa.
Yes, Batman Enemy, yeah. Suicide Squad, Titans, Squadron Supreme, sure. Legion of Doom and Injustice League and D tier, bro. That's hurtful.
Let's go back to Alpha Flight here.
Runaways.
So they've only been fully made in Wolverine.
Bro,
the
they're
X-Men.
bad. Don't be an Alpha Flight stand right now, dude. Don't.
Invincible Iron Man plus Wolverine in the X-Men makes a very solid Alpha Flight team. Now it doesn't hit on any of his power cosmic like other stuff, but let's just negate the fact that you don't have to play like North Star and.
Please don't lie to yourself like this, man. Please don't.
Solid C tier.
Oh no!
No. I'm bumping Alpha Flight up a single tier.
No.
You know what, Calder? There is a single tier that I have for Alpha Flight.
Jeez.
In the C tier.
That was actually a little clever. All right.
Was it though?
I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I mentioned, Battle World and then Batrock's Brigade definitely belong in D tier. I love both those keywords to death, and even I'm like aware, like they're terrible. Now, Heroes for Hire didn't always used to be bad. It used to be the go-to amazing keyword. So I'm a little upset about that being in D tier, especially if we're playing with
Golden Age ATAs.
Yeah. But without ATAs, then yeah, sure, D tier is fine. So I just sort of think. By the way, you put MODOK's 11 above the Legion of Doom and all these other D tier ones. Come on. What else does MODOK's 11 have besides the new spot? That's so good. It needs to be a tier above the worst stuff. Let's come on, admit to ourselves. I also see there's no WWE keyword. That bothers me a little bit, not gonna lie. I guess they just don't play WWE down there. I would think WWE is a solid C tier, if not B tier, just for how good the trade is.
I would say like right? WWE tier would be in my list of use any one of these like team ability kind of things, where if you have a full WWE team, like it doesn't matter what your Kingdom Come stuff does, WWE team's going to just like completely run them down, because if you can't shoot at them, they get like close to you, your whole rollout on like a 5 through 6 or whatever isn't going to matter from range. there's a lot of stuff that like the WWE team's just gonna run completely over. At least in the offset. I wouldn't put it above B tier, but I feel like if you're putting new gods, warrior, champions, that kind of stuff in B tier, then yeah, WWE's solid B.
Definitely. But yeah, that's the thread. I think it's an interesting thing. And I was just talking about this with Kevin, listener to the show earlier, about our Prince tournament. Just sort of hoping that people wouldn't play as meta as they could. And they did. You know, it makes sense. I get it. There's a prize on the line, whatever. But you just sort of want, you know, that casual, fun Heroclix feeling where it's like, hey, guys, I don't know how to say it, but like, can we just sort of play to have fun, play some wacky teams? Let's not go nuts. And that's why I think it's good to have a couple of D tier nights and C tier nights. So I like this idea. It's obviously a lot of organization. It's a lot of like double checking when people come into the venue, making sure their teams are D tier, a lot of like cross-reference stuff you got to do. But I genuinely really enjoy this idea. I think it needs to be refined for each area you're in. Obviously, he clearly doesn't have a Jason Wingard, Vulture, Batman Prime problem because it's not on his needs to be jumped up a tier, right? Like that's just not a problem they have. So they just don't have those figures there, right? So stuff like that, I get it. For my area, we'd have to ban like not ban, but, you know, have to make every single possibly competitive figure would have to be on that list. Otherwise, someone is going to play him on the venue. They always find, yeah, well, it's not.
Holland.
Oh boy, here we go.
No, he's the judge. He's the judge. He doesn't play.
Yeah. Well, he does play sometimes. But anyway, I like this idea. I think more venues should try it out and be like, hey guys, we're doing a casual night. That specifically means these theme teams, these whatever. Here's the part where it gets messy. We have a lot of kids that normally show up to our venue. They just don't have a lot of figures. And that's what's tough when I try to make up fun scenarios for us to do. They always say like, hey man, we don't have that many figures. We can't do stuff like this. We haven't been playing for 7, 8, 20 years, right? The impossible 20 years. We haven't been playing for that long. So like, we just don't have, I can't make a Young Justice or Howling Commandos theme team. To be fair, in the D tier, there is some newer stuff. I get it. But yeah, we just don't have access to a lot of these figures. That's the only part where it's like a slight flaw in the system. And you could say, oh, just loan it to them. I really don't want to give these little freaking kids my Heroclix figures. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's just, I've seen
well, it's also, it's just less fun to be able to like build, because I've come across this problem for newer players. It's less fun for them to build out of what they possibly could build out of with their own stuff than to build out of like, well, so-and-so said they could loan me like X. It's not as fun for them to build like with that caveat. So yeah, like lowering the like figures they can use in any kind of direction is not the best for new players, for sure.
All right. Any last words you want to say? I'm pretty much done. I think I've voiced everything about this thread. Neat idea, needs some refining depending on your area, but I really do like the idea to try to keep certain nights more casual. Other nights, like go ahead, it can be S tier teams, whatever. What do you think, Simeon?
Before I like give my piece on it, I do want to read one comment. It's on the first page by Faster Than Flash. He says, good idea, maybe wrong direction. The high power things are probability control, theme team probability control, outwit, perplex, multiple free actions. And then he says, if you limit/restrict those, you should be fine. Feel free to check out my post in the House Rules thread. So Faster Than Flash has their own thread where apparently their tier system is more about support
mechanics.
Powers. Yeah. Which
keywords, yeah.
I feel like is a decent idea up to a point, because they Heroclix in general, like as far as like going forwards, it seems like it's hard to have a lower costed figure that doesn't have theme team probability control, outwit, probability control, perplex, some sort of free action, because that's like sidestep, you know, things like that. If I'm paying for a 30-point figure and it doesn't have sidestep, or if I'm paying like, you know, I'm building this team and I'm like, oh, I can't have 2 Star Lab scientists because they could potentially have Perplex or Outwit or Probability Control. So like I just can't build with that. I think that's worse, to be honest. No offense against Faster Than Flash, but I think our good old KCGL has a better system worked out because honestly, I like having teams that occasionally, you'll build like a scientist theme team and have a ton of Perplex, but it doesn't matter because your opponent has a ton of Prob, or you build a team with a ton of Outwit, and then all of a sudden you come across the opponent that has a ton of like Power Cosmic stuff or Cosmic Energy or whatever we're calling it now. I don't want to say that it's like fun to come across those teams, because if you build your entire team to have like a bunch of Outwit and then you just can't do it at all, it doesn't feel great.
Yeah.
But it's not unbalanced. So in the effort to balance casual nights, I would disagree with good old Faster Than Flash and say making tiers as far as powers go doesn't really make a ton of sense, because I could have a 150 point character that starts with Outwit, and if you're going to say like I can only have one of those, whereas like my opponent has like 3 30 point Outwits and he can only have one of those, that's like kind of a weird disparity between the two. It's a good start is what I'm going to say to this KCGL. If he really wanted to get serious about like implementing something that would be useful across the United States, across the world, as far as making tiers go, he would definitely have to get like more competitive insight as far as figures that he have listed that would bump tiers up. But as of right now, it's pretty solid. I'm not going to lie. It's you'd also have to add like an E tier and rework, because I think some things in C tier could jump down to D, some things in D tier could jump up and also jump down, and then some things in B tier
For sure.
even could definitely go down to like C tier, and it all just fluctuates with like sets that we get. So I think B tier is definitely anything that we get a set every year that has this keyword. So that would be Avengers get hits every year. Superman Ally probably gets hits every year. Kryptonian to a lesser extent. Asgardian definitely. Then like the generic keywords is Ruler, and that's like, I guess generics are the weird one. Cosmic for sure. We have been getting
That is, yeah.
Like I wouldn't put
100%.
Cosmic in the same tier as Future, because Future, unlike Scientist, Future almost always comes with the explicit like prob. Scientist could be Perplex prob or Outwit. And then like X-Men for sure should just like automatically at this point in time be A tier. Probably even S tier, because like X-Men, you just have way more to pull from. And so
it's nutty.
I would never put X-Men in the same caliber as Frightful Four or Trinity or Fawcett City or Future.
Ooh, yeah. Yikes. Is X-Men that low, honestly?
I mean, it's
Oh, that's
B
bad.
tier. Yeah.
Oh, that's really bad. Yeah, no, X-Men should not be that low.
Yeah.
I get it. A lot of stuff are in B tier, but like definitely Frightful Four should not be in B tier. Yikes. Oh, yikes.
I would suggest.
And Earth X, honestly, neither should Earth X.
No.
What's so good about Fawcett City and Trinity that I'm missing? Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman? Wow. They're not that good. I'm sorry. Like,
I mean,
they just
Fawcett
aren't.
City
On a
has
team together, no.
one of Calder's favorite figures of all time. Mary Marvel belongs to the Fawcett
Of course.
City keyword.
Yeah, that should be C A tier. Just hate that chick so much. But like Excalibur and Frightful Four and Earth X should not be in B tier. There's no way.
No,
I mean, that should change.
Yeah,
there's a ton of stuff that shouldn't be there. But yeah, you got to work with what you got
for sure. It's a good start, but yeah,
especially with how easy it is to bump up a tier, I would say. It's not super easy, but like just how convenient it would be to bump up a tier. Yeah,
Yeah, having like a Hydra team with one figure that's on the list, and then all of a sudden you're going against a, let's see, like an X-Men team or a scientist theme team. Because if scientist is the only keyword that they share, and they're not like jumping up to like Avengers or whatever, and even then Avengers is in the same category. So like if scientist is like their keyword, scientist is going to destroy like pretty much anything from C tier. It doesn't really matter. Like even like assassin spy, yeah, it's gonna like Hydra. It's gonna destroy pretty much anything from C tier without a lot of help. And there's a few things in C tier that I think could deal with scientist, and that's why I think like an extra tier and then reworking some of the keywords from where they are would be pretty beneficial for this thread.
So I think it just sort of comes down to. Now, let me finish my one thought here before I say sort of my ending stuff. M Pro, another comment on the thread says, I'm just going to read his last part, but one way to level the field by having figures from the same time period. I don't know how much Golden Age this guy plays. I assume it's a little bit. He's got some Golden Age figures on his ban list, not really ban list, but tier jump list. I think there should be a thing where it's like for every character that doesn't have the dial on the back of the card, the old cards, goes down a tier, or like if it has two characters, it goes down a tier or two tiers, and then it'll stop there, right? If you've got a figure that doesn't have an Oreo base, go down a tier for every figure that doesn't have an Oreo base, or two tiers or something, right? If your character doesn't have a card, go down like 3 tiers or something, like especially, but it sort of depends on how much space they take on your team too, right? So that's another whole mess. Like that sounds like a good idea. Like, oh, Kalder, yeah, like it's older stuff. It's not as good. Power creep, blah, blah, blah. That makes sense. But then in my same like level of thinking, I'm like, well, shoot. Then I just put 2 shield agents on the team from Infinity Challenge. They're fine for 11 points. They're not my crutch. And I go down a few tiers. There's a way to abuse the system, but there should be a way to insert where it's like, I'm playing old stuff. Or maybe you should just say, hey guys, we're playing old stuff this week, whatever. But like, if I'm playing a team of Avengers, but they're all from like Hammer of Thor and back, they're not A tier, Right. So
yeah,
that's another thing to worry about, which is rough, right? Like it's just another thing to like put on top of how the tier things. The tier thing is a good idea. I really like it. There's just a lot more to it than what's here. Now, that being said, it's not really this guy's fault. It's not KCGL's fault. It's your area. His area, he doesn't have that problem, I imagine. So it's sort of a thing that if he really like got down to it, looked up all the meta stuff, talked to a lot of meta players, looked back at what was just crazy good for Golden Age, figuring out a Golden Age system, certain tier jump characters, added more tiers, he could really refine it. Like there's something there. It's really good. It's a really good idea. There's a lot to work with. It just needs to be refined. That's all I'd have to say.
Yeah. So like going off of this list, let's say casual night, they're doing A tier teams. Someone builds an Avengers team with like some Medusa and a Voyager. So Voyager has power cosmic. That's going to bump them up to A tier. Someone builds a Trinity team with like KC Superman. So like starts off with like a 12 attack. That bumps them up to A tier. So it's like KC Superman, normal Batman, normal Wonder Woman. There's a lot of like interesting stuff. I don't know how you'd ever do Cosmic as B tier, because most people with Cosmic are going to come with Power Cosmic. Not everyone in Cosmic, but like enough that your options would be super limited. And maybe that's why it does make sense as a B tier team. Because if you're doing Cosmic without Power Cosmic, then you're doing like, actual B tier kind of like heroes and stuff. But yeah, as far as like a casual play kind of format, I think between this thread and the thread that was reworking the point system for older figures.
Oh yeah, that's right.
If we could make a super list out of like all this stuff, we could truly come up with like a decent casual like list of like formats. It'd be a ton of work, and it might be more of a headache than it's worth than just like dealing with the one guy that brings meta stuff every time. But I don't know, it's really interesting because
sometimes it's difficult, right? Like you have to go through all this work to just be like, hey guys, can I be real with you for a second? Like sit all your players down. Can we just not play jank next week? Can we just have fun?
I never understand.
You want me to not play good?
I never
and
understand.
I'm like, no, I don't want you to not play good. I
just
want you to not play jank, bro. Does that make sense to you? And he's like, no, it does not. I'm like, well, all right, cool. Here we are.
Yeah. I'll just absolutely never understand the people that are like, I don't know how to not build good. And I'm like, you do. Because all those figures that you constantly avoid building with because they're not good enough, I just need you to build with those for one night. And they're like, I don't know how. And it's like, just try. Just like,
it's pretty easy.
When you type a keyword in and you're building like a theme team, don't look at the dials. Just click on like the first like 8 that catch your eye that you haven't ever used before, and that's a perfectly fine team for a casual night. It's like, I can't play Starjammers without Robot Guy that carries everyone. It's like, yeah, you can. You just have to walk like regular folk.
But all right. I think that'll close us out for this Thread Dead Redemption. So Simeon, we always got to rate the thread based off our really weird 1 through 10 system. 10 being the best, 1 being like needs work. So let's just make it a tier system. Where on the tiers would you rate this? Obviously saying S is the top, and like a really whatever number through something else is the bottom. Through 10. Right. That one. Yeah. So A B C D F G H I J K L M N P, etc. So
1's the.
Where are we rating this thread?
Is that what you're saying?
1 is the good number. We'll say that's S, and then A tier, B tier, etc. It goes down from there.
All right. Well, I would have rated KCGL a good old 2 reputation points for this thread, but sadly, in the recording of this podcast, somebody bumped his reputation points up by 1, so now he is sitting at 3 reputation points. Who could have done such a thing? Maybe it was me.
Whatever that could be.
But I'll go 3. It's a really solid thread. There's a lot of work put into it. It's clear that if he's not a judge of a local venue, that he should be, because he's clearly put like a lot of thought, and he's responding to a lot of people that have commented. He's got a lot of interesting like responses and stuff. Again, like we pointed out some of like the theme teams that we think are worthy of like higher standings or lower standings for whichever reasons. If it's different in his area, then I mean that's perfectly fine. Like if in his area, Guardians of the Galaxy get played as often as Avengers, and like with just as much
slap, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. It truly is, depending on what kind of Avengers you're running.
It is.
In my opinion, it would just be these tiers based on like how many figures available. But yeah, I'm just gonna say 3. I'm gonna say it's a really good thread. It's worth reading, especially if you're into like the casual kind of gameplay and you really need like an idea for, you've got like a couple people that you really want to like tone down in your group. This would be a great like starting point as far as how to make it an even playing field for everyone.
Mm-hmm. All right, sweet. Yeah, I'm gonna actually use the rating system I set up that Sammy didn't understand. I'm gonna say it's a B tier thread. I'm gonna say it's pretty solid. I think the bones are there. It needs a little work. That's all. Yeah.
3 is B.
That's what I was kind of going for. Yeah, there you go. All right, but yeah, I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna say it's about B tier. Obviously, whatever works for your area. So me and Simeon aren't gonna be able to fully understand all that jazz. But yeah, for sure, I think it's a great idea, and a little bit of polish. It'll be an S tier idea in no time. So thank you, KCGL. Thanks, Elliot, for sending the email, letting us know. Glad you're a fan of the show. Hopefully you're still a fan of the show after that. I don't think we said anything too terrible about your thread. But yeah,
we've definitely
moving on into
other threads way worse.
For sure, easily, definitely
shoot them up and spit them out, kind of threads. But yeah,
No, they did
anyone
not.
that's interested in checking this thread out, HC Realms Heroclix general discussion should be there. I mean, it's one of the few threads in that's bumped up. So check it out.
I'll see if I can put a link in the podcast notes below, because I know you guys don't want to do all that searching jazz. Yeah, you're not like Simeon on a late night trying to conspiracy theory searching through the internet and find all these loopholes. You guys just want to wait.
Yeah, there's not a lot of I'm not going to get into it, but forums are of a bygone era, or you're a real weirdo and you should get off of the forums and make your own chicken tenders because your mom's tired of feeding you. You're 30 and you need to do it yourself.
Oh, interesting. That's a strange thing to say. Let's go ahead and jump into a Malcolm Rush question block, shall we?
That's in Japan!
Japan? No. I can't go to Japan.
Glad we escaped that little rant that we were going on there for a second. Really didn't understand the chicken tenders thing, but here we are. Malcolm Rush writes in, Oreo dial carded sets with dials on the back of the cards for Thursday Throwdown games are over. So let's ask questions about that. Obviously, if you guys don't know, we've mentioned Thursday Throwdown games all the time. Check it out on our YouTube channel, Thursday Throwdown. If you sort of want to understand what we're talking about here, me and Simeon take 2 Golden Age sets. You guys vote for the figures on our team. Then we play. Then we just go through, boom. Then the next 2 sets, etc., etc. So number 1 is best, worst, favorite, and surprising sets this round of Thursday Throwdown. Simeon, what's your best set? What do you think is the best set this round of Throwdown?
So, yeah, it's hard to say. Out of the single sets, if I was going to pick one set that would definitely just like curb stomp the rest, I'm going to say XXS. There's just a lot of power pieces in that set. We didn't play with the cards, with the ID cards. If we had, it would have been even like worse, because I mean that set just defined like almost 2 years. It defined almost 2 years of Heroclix, and they had to retire ID cards early with that set just so that it didn't like continue defining Heroclix forward.
Yeah, I gotta say I hated that. I was just not a fan. But yeah, it is probably the best set. However, for best, I wrote Spear Your Foes of Spider-Man. It was just a really fun set. It really it ushered in the age, you know, one of the first sets to have it. Just a really great set. Very solid, fun set. Worst set, Simeon.
That's a hard one, but I'm going to have to give it a tie between... I'm not even going to tie it. I'm going to say it's Elseworlds. I was going to say it was a tie between What If and Elseworlds, but I truly think that Elseworlds might have been the worst set of this era, because it was just like bad bang for your buck all around. What If had some solid super rares, it had some cool stuff going on, and then it just felt like Elseworlds really fell flat. Like they had some planetary stuff, they had some almost cool chases, like the Superman was really cool, the Batman was okay, the Green Arrow got used in meta, and then the Robin was just like, what are you doing with this? What is this thing? Yeah. And what if chases weren't anything to like really be amazed about, but
they weren't really amazing either. At least
there was at least like a theme that they kind of worked with. Whereas Elseworlds was just kind of, they were all over the place as far as point value went.
Ooh, that's for sure. My worst set, I had to give it to Star Trek. I just hate Star Trek. I just hate it so much. And this is an opportunity for me to kind of poop on it a little more. Yeah, I just don't care for it. I don't like it at all.
Though really had you under her finger. I mean,
yeah, she actually gave me a little bit of a tough time. Yeah, not gonna lie. And then your favorite set, Simeon.
Favorite set. I have to go with Avengers Defenders War. Avengers Defenders War not only didn't have an awesome chase theme, all the rares were really decent, with the exception of like Owlman and Porcupine and those. But even then, like pulling those wasn't that bad. Second place would have been Deadpool and the X-Force, because that was also like didn't really care if I pulled a rare or a super rare. They were like really solid, but Avengers Defenders War for sure had probably my favorite in this era of like commons and uncommons and stuff.
It's funny you say Deadpool and the X-Force because and Avengers Defenders War, because I said the opposite of Avengers Defenders War. I said Deadpool and the X-Force for my favorite set. I just really had a lot of fun, had a lot of figures in it that I know I played a lot, and then it just had a lot of characters that I was like waiting for a long time. Squirrel Girl and Howard the Duck being the biggest ones that I was just waiting for them to get made. Swarm ended up being like really cool. It just had a lot of fun figures in it. Really enjoyed it. And then what was the set that was surprising? This is more of the gameplay side of things, but like what was really surprising for you to play out of Simeon?
I want to say Star Trek, but really I wasn't surprised at how easily Star Trek went down. It truly was a set that was only meant to be played within itself. So instead, instead of that, I'm gonna say I'm very surprised with. Let's go with What If. I'm surprised that my What If team managed to like beat out Calder's Elseworlds team, because truly I did not know whether or not What If was actually going to be able to pull it out. I thought Elseworlds had way better figures. What If just had enough synergy and enough like free action stuff going on. There's some cool stuff, even though Calder had probably some of the best pieces from Elseworlds. What If really...
They were really good.
Yeah, What If really like managed to pull out the win with that one, and it was pretty surprising.
My most surprising had to be Joker's Wild. I honestly always just kind of thought it was a bad set. I was able to win mostly because of Anarchy. I'll be real with you. But still, I was just really surprised at how well Joker's Wild turned out for me. So like that was like, okay, Joker's Wild. All right, then that's better than I thought it was. Next up, number 2, what did you learn about these sets that changed since you started playing Thursday Throwdown games? What did you learn about them, Simeon? What did you learn?
Nothing. So I played through all these sets.
Thanks.
Every one of these sets I bought, there wasn't really anything that I learned. Spider-Man, Avengers Defenders War, Elseworlds, and What If were all and yeah, those 6 were all prior to the rules change. There wasn't enough stuff that changed in the rules that made them that much different. I really didn't like, there wasn't any like huge perception changes. These are all like slightly less than modern in my opinion. Because honestly, like these are all sets that I'd still reach for if I'm building out of like modern kind of like era. So yeah, there wasn't really anything that I really like shifted my perspective on how they worked or anything.
What I noticed in these sets was the level of power creep from Joker's Wild to, X-Men Xavier's School type of deal, where we kind of started with some really lackluster set. And it's not like a gradual power creep thing. It's just sort of all over the place. Like Joker's Wild is real bad, and so is What If and Elseworlds. But in between those, we had Deadpool and the X-Force and Avengers Defenders War. I would probably say ADW is a better set than Deadpool and the X-Force, just for what was all used out of there. Better, figures overall. And then, of course, Mighty Thor, and then it kind of goes back down with Harley Quinn and the Gotham Girls, shoots way back up with Avengers Infinity with X-Men Xavier's School. Avengers Infinity, obviously, more so on the Colossal side than the single-figure side. But the Colossals really added a big boost to the game. Then, obviously, X-Men Xavier's School. Then it kind of shoots back down with Star Trek, Undead, and Thor Ragnarok movie. It's just sort of the power scaling is all over the place. It didn't gradually get better or anything. It sort of jumped around. It's very strange.
It's almost as if they don't have a single person forward thinking like all of these sets, and they just switch around who does each set, and that person doesn't bother to
super weird
backtrack and be like, what did the last DC set do? What did the last Marvel set? Like, oh wait, no, I'm doing DC. I don't care about the last Marvel set. I'm going to go a whole year back to see what these figures should be costed. 17 defense across the board. That's good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Number 3, Which of those figures that you didn't play in your Throwdown games that you wish you had a chance to play?
Oh,
So what was a
man.
figure that missed the vote that you weren't able to play, Simeon?
So not necessarily like a figure that missed the vote, but just the entirety of my Spider-Man Superior Foes of Spider-Man team. They kind of just got exploded, and I didn't get to play any of them, and it was very disappointing.
That is
Thank
fair.
you,
That's
Anarchy.
fair.
I mean, that was my own fault, but also Calder's rolls for Anarchy were just way too good.
They were
Just
good.
Ruined
They were really
my entire
good.
time.
I gotta say, I was a little bummed I wasn't able to play Howard the Duck in Deadpool and the X-Force. A little bummed about that. No Squirrel Girl either, or Koi Boy, Chipmunk Kunk, sure, but no Squirrel Girl. Like those are like bigger figures in the set. Still got to play Hell Cow, which is great. I was a big fan of that, but like no Howard, no Squirrel Girl was a pretty big bummer. Same game, neither Captain America for Simeon's team. No Hydra Cap, no Sam Cap. Sam Cap's slightly more balanced in a setting where there's no ID cards. So I was like, man, really, no Sam Cap, no Hydra Cap, no
Honestly,
none of the chasers.
Not even like a really big taxi in that set.
Yeah,
Avengers
so
Defenders
that was a
War.
bummer.
I love the Hulk chase from that set. It's really hard to fit him in like a lower point. And this isn't really like a lower point setting.
Yeah.
In a setting where I'm trying to fit as many figures as possible, it's really hard to swing a 200-point figure into it, even if it's really cool, because that Hulk's main thing is like he gets mad and like has a stop click mid dial and can push and stuff like that. And that's not really like something that tells you anything about the rest of the set. So it's not necessarily like interesting enough to play when I could play 4 50-point pieces for the same price. So I do wish that like we had like a little bit of a kind of like like a chase like face off kind of thing. It wouldn't have made a ton of sense, but for Avengers Defenders War, there's definitely a few chases that I wish we would have seen. What if I would have really liked to have seen the Venom Hulk, but I guess Venom Thor was okay. He definitely did things.
Absolutely. Next up, number 4. Out of all the sets of Thursday Throwdown games, what was the most fun to play? What was your favorite game to play there, Simeon?
I put Elseworlds versus What If. I think that was like one of the closer games. Games like, I wouldn't say Avengers Defenders War versus Deadpool was not close. That was also very close. But like Xavier's School was really one-sided. It felt like TMNT versus Star Trek was really one-sided. And then same with the Mighty Thor versus Harley Quinn. It was just like very obvious which set had better stats for the same points. But Elseworlds versus What If, not only were those both the 15th anniversary? No. I can't remember. They were.
No, you're right. It was.
Okay, yeah, both 15th anniversary of like
Heroclix. 15th, yeah.
So not only like that, but like the power set like seemed really well like balanced, and I think it mostly came down to just like attack rolls, like whether Calder got an attack off on me, and if it missed, then if I like got the follow up and like stuff like that. Didn't really come out to like me having like the one out of balance figure or anything like that. So that was my favorite.
Nice. I agree. I think it was really fun. The Elseworlds and What If is also my favorite game we played. It was just a really fun game. Had a good time. There's a lot of more back and forth in that than a lot of other games. Pretty much all the same reasons Simeon said. Just it was a fun game. Next up, question number 5. Which set figures could still compete within today's game? Obviously, these ones are super recent. So it makes this a little easier to answer. But Simeon, which set really stands out that would still compete in today's game?
If I was going to pick one single set, I would say Avengers Defenders War. I think there's enough Avengers out there to make like a decent theme team. Moondragon was like my surprisingly good figure from that set that like I had never played her as effective as she was in that set. or as effective as a piece, like as I did in that game. She never worked for me as well as like she did in there. Of course, X-Men Xavier School with ID cards and X-Men being like a prominent keyword, also very effective. Same as AI with like all of the Colossals and stuff. It's really hard to pick. Like all of these more recent sets, they're only like a couple years old, and with as many keywords and like set dumps as we get, really only the DC ones like fall to the wayside, in my opinion.
For sure. Yeah, I don't think. I mean, obviously, there's a figure from every set that's always going to be good. Like Superior Foes of Spider-Man, Overdrive's just boss, dude. Like you can't get a much better taxi for that point cost. So there's going to be a figure for at the very least one figure, and I'll say this for every set ever. There's one figure from every set that's just solid for some reason. But I think the set that's definitely would be the best in modern is X-Men Xavier's School. ID cards are just crazy strong. Those X-Men by themselves, really, really, really strong team with the free student IDs and everything. The chases are strong. The Chase Green Gray is great. Chase Iceman as a call-in is fine. Chase Cyclops as a call-in is fine. Just between Collins, Super Wolverine, all that stuff, it's a wild competitive set. So I've got to go with X-Men Xavier.
Super Wolverine team that also has Krakoan Revival on it is like, not only do I have a stop click, I also go back to click 1, or like my starting click or whatever, and like you get this bystander, but like I can also attack you because you damaged an X-Men, and yada 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 yada.
See, it just kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. Just X-Men are so good, so much good X-Men stuff. And number 6, what is your favorite thumbnail? And which one do you wish you could redo?
All right. Favorite thumbnail. I think my favorite from this set of stuff is Elseworlds versus What If. Kalder did the Cowboy Flash, which is pretty solid. And I don't even remember how I managed to do it, but I attempted to do the Venom Thor, and if you look closely at the thumbnail, you can see my eye poking out between the teeth, so that's fun.
Oh, jeez.
But that was. I think I'm holding. So I don't have a hammer. I think I'm holding like a spatula or something. I don't know. I'm holding something that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, that was one of my favorite thumbnails.
I said the same thing. I really liked that thumbnail as well. Your Venom Thor is hilarious. My Flash was pretty solid. So yeah, I went with the same thing. Elseworlds and What If. I thought it was a great thumbnail. So yeah, Simeon, what's one you wish you would have redone?
That's pretty easy. Undead or Star Trek. Those are both ones where I just straight up did not have anything that matched. Like I don't have Frankenstein makeup. For Undead, it was hard to pick an MVP because everybody just kind of blew it in that game. Same for Star Trek. Everybody just kind of dropped the ball in that game. But for Star Trek, it's like a little easier to say, I don't have any alien costumes or makeup. For Undead, I did have a like Abraham Lincoln kind of getup, but my only Abraham Lincoln was a ghost, so I don't know. That's not my most proud cosplay for sure. I wouldn't wear it about town.
Yeah. I also had a problem with my Ragnarok costume. It was just pretty bad. It's probably my worst one yet. I was just not a fan of my Ragnarok costume. It did not hit on the level of Thorness that I wanted it to. Also, just about the Ragnarok Undead thumbnail, showed it to somebody. They're like, really? You're just wearing your like basketball shorts that you wear like around house? You really couldn't put pants on? And I'm like, oh yeah? Look at Simeon's pants really quick. What are those? Yeah, he's wearing Batman pants as Abraham Lincoln. Let's see.
Nobody noticed. Nobody noticed my Batman pajama pants. I colored in most of the spots on it. Yeah.
Dude, you left the Batman, like the word Batman was on there somewhere. You did not color in most of the spots. There was so much.
I did enough, though. Yeah, that was my favorite part of it. I was trying to match the color with like the Ghost of Abraham Lincoln's little sculpt, and I was like, I can't do the shiny bits. And then I colored in my pants, and I was like, I'm gonna leave the little Batman logos though. So yeah, there's little batarangs and whatever else like all around the pants area, but it's good stuff.
It is pretty funny. And thank you, Malcolm, for sending those questions. He drops some suggestions for Thursday Throwdown in the future, but we ended up just going with the section of sets that we haven't done yet, which is kind of all the indie sets that weren't really modern legal, that weren't released normally. So this week we're doing Street Fighter versus BioShock. I'm building out a Street Fighter. Simeon's building out a BioShock. Feel free to vote on those posts, or if you're in our Discord, feel free to vote on our Discord server.
Yeah, we'll have Halo and other random sets coming up soon too.
Yeah, something weird. It's going to be a bit weirder. So normally we just do it like these two sets are next to each other, and we just keep going. So we do like Infinity Challenge, Hyper Time, whatever. We just kept doing it that way throughout the majority of Thursday Throwdown. But with the way these indie sets are, right, there's just crazy figure disparities. Like randomly, a Yu-Gi-Oh will be next to, Kick-Arse or whatever. It's like, there's such a big, like, there's 12 figures in the Kick-Arse movie set, And like same thing with like Gears of War is next to Street Fighter, and like there's 10 characters in Gears of War to choose from. That's just not really fair.
And if we do the Pacific Rim set, it'll be weird because either
that's gonna be really weird.
One team will have like 12 figures and the other will have 3, or we'll have to find some set in there that has really high costed figures. And I don't think that there's a lot of indie sets with that high cost. I think it's pretty much
not a ton. Yu-Gi-Oh's got some higher ones. Like we would have to be Yu-Gi-Oh, and we'd have to be like, look, Exodia's on the team. Right. Sorry, guys. That's just the only way to make it fair type of thing, One of the blue eyes, red eyes, dragons, whatever. But like that's the only way to make it fair against like a Pacific Rim level of high point costed bloated stats type of set. So that's gonna be the future. Check out all our YouTube stuff. On our YouTube at Dial H for Heroclix. Just go ahead and type that in. There's like 1,000 listeners of this show, a little bit more than that. And we only have 584 subscribers. So give a sub to our YouTube channel, guys. It's another place you can listen to the podcast. We have unboxings. We obviously have the really fun Golden Age gameplay videos that we're doing. We have a bunch of dumb skits that I, set aside my pride and do. And then, of course, we have two of our favorite, like our projects here, like the Heroclix Hot Ones, which might be a series. Who knows? It was pretty painful filming that one episode. And then the Dial H for Heroclix Extreme Rules, which was just awesome. So check out both of those videos. They were a lot of work and a lot of fun. But just more importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Really appreciate it, guys. Really helps us out. To bring a close to the show, I'm going to go ahead and read a Jedi Legend Heroclix tip of the week.
You don't want to sell me death sticks.
I don't want to sell you death sticks.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
Jedi Legend says, this catches experienced players sometimes as well. When you see protected, the word protected in lowercase, this means the power itself cannot be protected. So he says specifically outwitted. Protected can be protected pulse wave, protected outwit, whatever. He says, all caps, protected applies to the whole figure. That is correct. Absolutely 100% true. So stop clicks have protected outwit pulse wave. And then any power that is a part of that stop click is also protected outwit and pulse wave. Not the whole click, though. And then, of course, if you see protected in a trait, if it's lowercase, it's just that trait that's protected. And normally it's like a thing that gives out tokens, or when this character dies, comes back to life or whatever, it just sort of lets you be able to bring that character back. Like, pulse wave, so you don't. Yep, so lowercase, capital, protected. Good stuff to know. But all right, that'll be a wrap to our show, ladies and gentlemen. Real quick reminder, like I said, Dial H for Heroclix on YouTube.com. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Dial H for Heroclix on Twitter. That is a 4. Go ahead, send us an email at dialhforheroclix at the little @ sign. That's the Shift A, Shift 2, a little Dial H for Heroclix at gmail.com. If you want to send us an email like Elliot did. And we're on HC Realms, and that doesn't really matter. If you support us on Patreon, it's a big help in funding a lot of Heroclix videos and, of course, getting equipment and stuff for the podcast. So if you want to fund us on Patreon, there's a link, obviously, in the podcast description for all of this stuff, but that's patreon.com/Dial H for Heroclix. If you want some Dial H for Heroclix merch and you don't want to go through the Patreon to get your stickers and tokens and stuff, but you might want it on like a mug or a t-shirt or any like random thing, go ahead and check out our Redbubble, redbubble.com/Heroclix, also in the podcast show notes. We get a small like portion from whatever sales on Redbubble, so you are helping out the show by doing the Redbubble thing, but that's mostly for if it's just like you want a specific sticker. It's still cheaper to get it on our Patreon, but if you want to go to Redbubble, you can get stuff on like mugs, on t-shirts, on like the Howdy Howdy Let's Get Ratty design, all the new sticker designs that I'm using for the Extreme Rules stuff. All of that can be found on our Redbubble if you want to buy that for the Clix junkie in your life or something like that. So more like random specific stuff that we can't like make like input as Patreon rewards. We're not like a store, so we're not going to like keep inventory in stock. You can just go ahead and buy it on Redbubble. But that's all I've got to say. So Simeon, the rest of the show is yours.
Plus on Redbubble, if you get like one of those t-shirts or sweatshirts or whatever, and someone's like, hey, what is that crazy that's the way it should be Clix shirt, you can be like, oh, that's from the Dial H podcast, and you can rep us a bit. And the Heroclix players that see it, because clearly no one in current common life would actually recognize it, but the Heroclix players around you sure might, and then you can point it our way, and that's always fun when someone's like, hey, I found you via blah blah blah. We had someone recently find us just from the weird YouTube algorithm, which made no sense because they hadn't played Heroclix in like 12 years, and that was pretty cool. And if you want to be pretty cool and you want some merch, there's a good website to go to. It's called coolstuffinc.com. You can find cool stuff in stock every day, from the latest Heroclix singles to sealed products. You can also buy their mugs and their shirts, although ours might have better designs. I'm not gonna lie. It's ours have better designs. I'm looking at them right now. But they are our sponsor, so we'll go ahead and say check them out at coolstuffinc.com.
Happy trails.